Everyone, and happy to see everyone in the world, across the world, and I'm so happy to be a part of this podcast. Here we are going to talk about A Voice of Change, a signature global podcast by WLF focusing on critical human rights dialogues shaping our world today. A space to confront difficult realities. Today's topic affect many lives, atrocity crimes such as war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. The question is, are these acts human rights violations? The answer is yes. The question is, again, are these acts human rights violations? The answer is yes, according to the United Nations. The legal and human impact of these atrocities will be examined along with what can be done to promote justice and accountability. Here, we are going to discuss about this. How? With whom? The beautiful and Miss Monica Rocha Herrera. Let's have a quick brief about her. Miss Monica Rocha Herrera. She's a country director from Mexico and a human rights. Now, the guest today, what we are going to talk about, she is an excellent professor of international criminal law and international humanitarian law at the Externado University of Columbia with a PhD from the University of Warwick and an LLM from the University of Essex. Monica brings a wealth of knowledge to the discussion. She has served as a candidate nominated by United Nations of Human Rights Council for this position of LA and a Caribbean expert in the UN Working Group on the US of Mercenaries. Her extensive experience and research in international criminal law and human rights make her the ideal person to shed light on today's complex topic about atrocity crimes and their undeniable link to human rights violations. So, what are we going to talk about today? Here, myself, Jeevitha, country leader, India, Directorate of Supply Chain Management, World's Leader Foundation. Here is the topic, once again for you. Atrocious crimes nowadays, are they human rights violations? So, Monica, please tell me a few questions about the topic, what we're going to discuss about today, right? What defines an atrocious crime in today's context?
So you're asking me already.
Yes, please.
Right. Okay. Well, yes, because you pose a series of very interesting questions that go directly to the heart. Let's say to what it commonly is talked about. Atrocious crimes. Well, first of all, I have to say that I have to talk from the international criminal law perspective. So I guess that this is all about me, about the legal
Exactly.
stuff. So although sociologically and politically, you hear doctrinally the term atrocious crimes. It is not a legal term by itself. I mean, you can find this definition of atrocious crimes in any statute of international criminal tribunals in the world. But we cannot say that it is wrong because it's used, as I said, sociologically speaking and politically as well, especially when, in the media, we are referring to very grave, let's say, international crimes. So first of all, I'm going to answer this question about atrocious crimes. What are we talking about here? When the UN in fora like the General Assembly or the Security Council, they refer to atrocious crimes. What they are referring is to genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and also we are talking lately about aggression, which all of these four categories are included in something that we know as the Statute of Rome. That is the statute that rules the International Criminal Court in The Hague. But there are other categories that we talk about a lot, like terrorism, but that one is not included in any of the tribunals. But let's focus on this, let's say, not even aggression. Let's focus on genocide and crimes against humanity as war crimes. So when we talk about atrocious crimes, we're talking about these three in general. We have now situations like in Palestine or in the current war in Ukraine, that we're talking about these crimes that they are being committed systematically. So these are atrocious crimes. So let's be clear. First, to answer your question, this is not a legal term, but it is not wrong. We can talk about this. I mean, the UN talks all the time about this. Actually, it was in 2005 when the General Assembly, through this strategy, the right to protect, in which recognize that the target of these atrocious crimes are the civilian population. So they started to talk about doctrinally about atrocious crimes. So let's say this is the context, but legally speaking, we need to talk about separately genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes.
Right. Okay, that's actually very well said. Definitely, whether it is terrorism or genocide, or it's very well put it across. And definitely, there's not everything is wrong and everything is right. So we actually how we look forwards towards it, it matters a lot. Thank you for that. So now, when and how do such crimes become a human rights violations?
That's a very important question. And there's a lot of confusion about this. Let's talk about the beginning. If we recollect what Theodore Meron, former judge, president judge of the International Tribunal, UN Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, he said once, we cannot get confused between, the commission of international crimes as genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. He was talking about the context of the war in the Balkans in the 90s of the last century. And human rights violations, even if they are gross violation or very serious violation of human rights. Why? Because, of course, he was talking technically. Why? Because these are different categories. I have to say that when we talk about the Commission of International Crimes, we are talking about the responsibility of any individual in his or her individual capacity. And when we talk about human rights violations, we talk about the state. I mean, the state is a perpetrator through its representatives, members of the government, either, soldiers, policemen, policewomen, civil servants, state. So there is one huge difference. So we have to be clear on this. Actually, if we look at what we have at international level, well, we have international tribunals like the European Court of Human Rights that deals with these violations. And we have International Criminal Court and the UN tribunals for the former Yugoslavian Rwanda that now disappeared, that they focus on the individual responsibility. And when we talk about crimes as genocide, crimes against atrocious crimes. Any of us, we don't have to belong to the government. Any of us can commit these crimes. So that's the first part of the question. But we can also say, and this is said in a few cases in the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, that there is some link between the commission of atrocious crimes, again, genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes, with gross violation of human rights. When this happens, well, the court in several cases said you can have, an atrocious, let's say, a conduct that could be at the same time genocide or a war crime if we are in a context of an armed conflict, and also a gross violation of human rights if committed by representatives of the state. So you can have both things at the same time. But also, I would say, and this is very important, gross violation of human rights, that, the target is the human being. They are directly linked with a notion that we know since 100 years ago in law, which is the principle of humanity. And the principle of humanity was let's say, the background that developed in time to what we know now as crimes against humanity, where the victim is humanity.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
yes, we have this same origin, but these categories, one went one side and the other to other side. Sometimes they cross, yes, but to punish them, to punish perpetrators, you need different institutions.
True. So I have a different question here. So coming to, you were talking about an individual responsibility, whether he or him, right? So how do we take these things under control? See, there are, the multiple constitutions, there are multiple things which is across the globe, you see, but still the crimes are in place and the atrocious related things towards human trafficking is in place. So how do you think that we can able to control the situation, and what would be the best advice? Do you think that, okay, this would be the best thing we should be thinking about, right?
That's a very difficult question. That's a very difficult question because this has been, in the discussion since, let's say, after the First World War, when it was created this commission of war to study what to do to avoid, a catastrophe like that war, like the World War. And since then, this commission recommended the establishment of a permanent international criminal court. And then, let's say, in their report, they were the same, the first to let's say, to propose to the allies to punish individuals, especially those in high position that were charged for conspiracy, for the planning of crimes, yes, to punish them. So everything, let's say, in law started there. It was frustrated by politics, and all of that. There was an impasse, let's say, of a few decades, and then it was now taken into consideration until Nuremberg in the 40s. So what to do with that? Well, I think there are two ways. One is international one, and we're doing this through the establishment of not only International Criminal Court, that it lasted there for like 80 years until it was finally established in 1998 with the Statute of Rome, but other tribunals that exist and have worked on the area, like Yugoslavia, Rwanda, Lebanon, and several others. And on the other side is the domestic level. And this is very important because within the context of the work of International Criminal Court, there is something that is called the complementary clause, since Article 1, in which says only the very, very responsible, the leaders, the most important perpetrators go to the court. But The rest, the states have to deal with it. The 90-something percent. If you take Colombia, Colombia is a case of laboratory for all the jurisdictions. We studied this very carefully because what the International Criminal Court did with them, because an investigation was open for 14 years, now it's closed. What they did was helping the government of Colombia to create the mechanisms to punish the perpetrators of this very long war with Las FARC guerrilla. Right. And they are doing this. So when you ask me what to do with this, well, on one side you have, okay, we need to punish perpetrators, but then you have the other side, the victims. The victims. Sure. And then you have to talk about something that in Colombia and other parts of the world we know as transitional justice. Transitional justice, which means a package of remedies, but also, let's say, steps taken to avoid the situation to happen again. Yeah. So it's very, let's say, it's very, the question is very general. So it depends on each country, but I would suggest those that, would like to study a little bit of this further, to take the Colombian case. That's what we have now. It's a very good example. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. So now, what do you think that the role of international law and global civil society, in terms of, I will have an amended questions along with that, because when you're talking up internationally, so this came to my mind. So what would be the role of international law and global civil society?
What should we do?
The role of international law and the global civil society.
The role of international law, well, this is a very abstract question, because talking about international law as such, it's a very big discipline. When we talk about international law, you have to focus on what on international law. And what international law you have, let's say, you have international criminal law, you have international humanitarian law, which is applicable only when armed conflict is on, either internal or international. And you have, as a bridge with these two, international human rights law. So as you see, it's huge. And this is a very interesting question, because, as I said, international human rights law is a bridge, which means that even, for example, when there is an armed conflict, human rights cannot be suspended.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, what we call the core human rights. There are others that you can suspend, like, for example, the freedom of movement, for example. Even the right to free speech can be suspended, but not permanently. Just it's for a short time. But there are others that cannot be suspended. It calls attention that children, for example, child's law, that cannot be suspended. So you see how human rights, it's, the bridge. And we say sometimes that it humanizes the other two disciplines, which sometimes they are very hard, right? So what this society can do, you know what? What is happening now with the conflict in Palestine, the conflict and, the atrocious crimes that they are, they're being committed there. And you have also Ukraine. What should we do about this? The media,
right?
Social networks, what we are doing now, and to demand that these should be stopped, that the humanitarian corridors, that the humanitarian aid should really, reach the victims,
True.
right?
True.
And the media. What we are doing now, raise awareness,
Mhm.
educate people. Uh, I think that's what we should be doing. And because just to leave the UN and other international organizations to do the work, I don't think that's enough. Just let's say a final point. Um, there is a lot of discomfort in the Western world about what is happening in Palestine now. Public opinion,
Right.
public opinion, even from people that before you couldn't think that they could, believe that matter, or were, in favor of, in this case, Israel. Now that is changing because, in my case, as many others, I cannot accept that civilian population can be submitted to atrocious crimes. It doesn't matter who's the perpetrator, huh? They cannot
Mhm.
be submitted. They cannot be submitted to atrocious crimes.
Right.
Yes.
So, when you were actually talking about the media's role, in human rights or any sort of the war sequences which is happening towards Ukraine or Russia, whatsoever, they play a vital role. So, it is not only an individual responsibility. Don't you think that the media is also responsible for whatever they share? So, what you are actually talking about, right?
Mhm.
So, don't we think that this can be reduced in terms of the violations can be reduced if we expose so many things out of media,
Mhm.
right? So, I was just thinking about it. So, I think this, you know, this also, the media also plays a vital role. And, you know, the people and especially whoever is there in Ukraine or any of the world across the globe, right? So it's a panic for people. That is again a violation. I must, according to me, that's again a violation because the panic it should not be there. Informations are fine. There should not be a panic, right? Yes, this is happening in this world. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's no denying it. But why there is a panic has to be created across the people.
Mhm. Well, now when you were, mentioning this about the media, well, you know that it is called the five power or the fifth power, and I believe it. In the case law produced by the UN International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, there was one case that illustrates the role of the media, and that was the media case.
Mhm.
What happened there? Genocide in Rwanda took place in 1994. 3 months, in 3 months, in spring, almost 1 million people died in the worst conditions. Well, and there was this broadcast
Mhm. Mhm.
from Radio de Mille Collines that, of course, it was, uh, or digamos, well, it was part of the government, the genocide government.
Right.
And they were, transmitting every day, messages of hatred against the target, which were the Tutsis.
Right.
Practically,
Right.
they were, abetting, kill them.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, of course, the authors and the perpetrators in this case were punished.
Mhm.
For genocide. The charge was genocide. So it was very important. I mean, what they did, aiding and abetting, which is actually a way of intervention, of criminal intervention in a crime,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, was very powerful.
Right.
So, of
Mhm.
course, the media has a role here. But also, if you remember in the Arab Spring,
Mhm.
remember,
Mhm.
people became practically journalists. You and I can become a journalist just with our phones, and you report, what's
True.
going on. So you don't need just the official channels to do this. You can do it yourself. But yes, media can work in favor or against.
Mhm.
In the case of the Radio de Mille Collines in Rwanda, well, the outcome was devastating, devastating because they were, aiding and abetting, uh, for this militia in Tarawe to kill the people, but also, the people. I have an article written a few years ago in one of the newspapers here, uh,
Mhm.
which I made some interviews in Kigali when I was working in the ICTR, in the tribunal for Rwanda. And I was in the jail, and I asked this person, he was condemned, a guy, a person of genocide, a normal people, a normal person. And I asked him, why did you do it?
Yeah.
And he said, uh, because it was my work. I went to work. I came back home in the evening, tired, and because it was my work, it was something that I was told to do. And I
He
asked,
chose. Yeah.
yes, I'll tell you, but does it ever cross your mind that this was something atrocious, or because they were your neighbors, you were your friends? And he said, no, you know, nobody thought like that, and that was a normal person. So what you hear is very important.
Yeah. True. True. I agree. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
doctrine.
So, thank you for that. So, out of all this, what would be your key reflections? Let's say, the trafficking as systemic violences, or it is international law and global civil society, or victims' justice and prevention, or mechanism. What do you think that, okay, what would be the key reference out of, according to you? If you brief that, okay, this is what we need to look into it, and this is what we need to work on it, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you think about it?
My key reflections of it, again, it is a very general question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my students, for example, they ask me
Yeah.
questions very similar to this. Sometimes I get very frustrated. Very frustrated
Okay.
because they say, the UN,
Okay.
is not useful. You should disappear and nothing will change. Or
Yeah.
international law, what are we studying international law? But that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
I have 25 years of teaching experience. And I hear this same question and this same, let's say, complaint several times.
Right. Right.
And I usually tell them, yes, it is not perfect. It is not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you cannot give up to your
True.
ideals, to your principles,
True. True.
principles that we know since the World Commission in 1919 said,
Mm-hmm.
all of this is based on the principle of humanity, where the humanity is the big thing. So don't
Mm-hmm.
we cannot get lost. This is a
True.
principle, okay? And I tell my
Yeah.
students, for example, okay,
Yeah.
I understand your frustration, but if I say to you, um, we know that legally speaking, ethically speaking, morally speaking, murder,
Yeah.
for example, is
Yeah.
forbidden and is punished by domestic law, not criminal domestic law. And the student said yes.
True.
But we are in Mexico City, right? So But in Mexico City, there are a number of murders every day. So just
Yeah.
because there are murders outside, do
Yeah.
you give up to the principle? So that's the reflection. Even though that there's war in Ukraine, there is war in Africa in several parts because there's still armed conflict there in many parts. Also, what
Right.
is happening in Palestine, and etc., etc., etc. You cannot renounce to the principle, to the basic principle. That would be my final reflection, because I can't, talk with you for hours saying, why the UN works and why the UN is important. Sometimes it gets us very frustrated, but it works because it works.
True.
When you have to analyze the thing, not as a whole, but you have to look for, okay, in the judicial part, you have the ICJ, International Court of Justice. And does it work? Of course it works. The tribunals, of course they work. And you have to work and to think in this way. So
Definitely.
So my final reflection is what I tell my students always. You cannot give up to the essential principle.
Got it.
And we have to keep going and fighting for our principles, for trying to build institutions.
Thank you, Ms. Monica, for an insightful discussion for today's session. And it's absolutely great to hear about what are all the terms and what are all the genocide related and the terrorism related and the individual responsibility of people and the media. We covered lots and lots of things, and of course they have its own set of understanding, and they need to look into a different set of areas, and they need to look the happenings across the world. It's completely differently, and everyone is responsible for the actions whatever they do, right? So, and we will be together, and along with that, we would celebrate that the World Day Against Trafficking in person on July 30th for sure. So we will be, happy to celebrate this, and we wanted to have this and be a part of this, trafficking in person on July 30th. And I'm so happy having a conversation with you on this, Ms. Monica. And of course, you have any other points to share, and this is my heartfelt thank you and gracias from my end. Right. So thank you for being a part of Voice of Change towards human rights violations. Your thoughtful engagement in this vital conversation helps awareness, inspire actions, and drive accountability. Together, we stand in solidarity with victims, champion justice, and uphold the fundamental dignity of every individual. We truly appreciate your time, attention, and unwavering commitment to advancing human rights around the world. And thank you once again. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you, Ms. Monica, for joining the session today. And we would look forward to see you in future, definitely if possible. I'm so happy to meet you wherever possible. When you come to India, definitely we could able
Oh,
to
yeah.
receive. I'm so happy for that. Any final words, or would you like to share something else?
Well, as you know, as always, I am so really grateful with the WLF that invites me to join you with this podcast and nice conversations about all these issues that are of interest in for everyone,
Right.
and that we are affected, you know,
Yes.
more and
Yes.
more. Um, I am very grateful and honored that you keep inviting me and to be part of this family of this really young foundation that I've been invited to be part of. And well, thank you again. I think that we should keep raising awareness about these issues. Um, just a final note about trafficking. I think this is this is a crime that is growing and growing with migration. And maybe we should talk a little bit further about this, because here, in this, with this crime, you have involved others, like crimes against humanity for sure, and especially if this is an armed conflict, well, war crimes, and also in some cases, genocide, although that's a very difficult sometimes to frame, because it's a very difficult crime to, let's say, legally to find it legally.
Sure.
Yes, but yes.
Definitely.
So
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Monica. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks a lot.
A very honor.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.